2-for-1 Drafts. This is Austin Gayle with my co-host here, Mike Renner. It happened. Alabama, LSU, a ton to dive into for that one. Joe Burrow, Tua Tagovailoa, Clyde the Glide, Edwards-Helaire. There are a ton of prospects to bring up in this one. Some good performances and some bad ones. In addition to that, we are going to raise a glass to the rest of college football. That's where we talk about some of our top prospect performers, and we're also going to pour some out for some of the bad performers from the weekend. Then we also got our Rolling Rook segment, talking about top rookie performances, and our Blackout segment. We got a frequent flyer on the Blackout segment as well. I can't wait to bring that guy up. And then finishing up with some smaller segments, Microbrew, a small school prospect we'll touch on, and Fake ID, a guy for the 2021 NFL Draft, will be a fireworks show. Looking forward to bringing him up as well. Down on the ticker below, you should see our latest mock draft, courtesy of Mike Renner. But let's dive into this Alabama LSU matchup. Let's first start with the quarterbacks. That's where everyone wants to go. First, your initial reaction, or I guess it's been a couple days. What's your reaction to Joe Burrow right now?
I think it was a very good performance. I mean, it was as expected, though. Mm-hmm. I think that's what we came into this week thinking, is that he would just light up Alabama like he's lit up every single other team, just efficient. Now, a lot of people are going to forget about the pick he threw to Trayvon Diggs. That was pretty, not good whatsoever. He just missed him in the zone there, him falling off his receiver. So that was bad, but it got negated by a penalty on that play. So it doesn't go down the stats, goes down in the grades. But I just think what he does from a, the mentality perspective, the way he attacks, the way he just like the winning attitude that he has at the quarterback position, combined with the accuracy, all that timing, all that. I think he's number one. I mean, I think he's number one, and I don't really care what he does from here on out. He's going to be the number one player in this class.
Wow, that is a definite statement. But when you do that to an Alabama defense loaded with NFL talent, like we saw in this game, it's a takeaway that you really have to do, extrapolate and say, you know what, there are a few quarterbacks at the college level that can do that to Alabama defenses with so much talent. I think Joe Burrow really took a step forward. But I'll say this. Tua Tagovailoa played a great game, too, on a bad ankle. I came away really impressed with what he did in this game. The ghost fumble will haunt him for as long as he lives. But outside of that, I really did like what he was doing. I think he showed off some of those NFL throws we were looking for, and I was really impressed with Tua.
The other thing, 5 big-time throws was the most he's had in any game in his career. So he was making more downfield throws than we've ever seen from him. The throw to Devontae Smith was perfectly placed, that 85-yard touchdown.
That was a banger.
Had a few down the field that were just money throws. The fumble, obviously bad, but here's on throws 10-plus yards downfield. He went 10 of 16 for 331 against the top secondary in college football. I mean, I think he proved to everybody else. Now, again, there was a pick there and the fumble in there, but I think he proved to everyone that, hey, I'm still a elite prospect in my own right. I look like a future franchise quarterback in my own right. So coming away from this game, I'm not, Burrow did separate himself. Burrow, I think, is still QB1, but Tua's right there, QB2, and number 2 on our board. If you need a quarterback, I think he's a pretty good consolation prize.
We are officially going bomb for Burrow over tank for Tua. It's been here. That's where we're at right now.
But you got to be happy if you're an NFL franchise, because now you don't necessarily have to lose every game. You don't have to be the Bengals. You can, you can win a couple if you're the Dolphins and still get a good QB.
Dude, the Bengals are going to take this guy number 1 overall. Former Mr. Ohio comes back home to Cincinnati, above average Joe, to what is now a winless Bengals team. Zach Taylor's probably chomping at the bit to move on from Andy Dalton even further, whether they release him or trade him, and go ahead and grab themselves Joe Burrow. Our producer in the ear said, and Joe Burrow's got red hair too. And you love when you have fire in the building, like red hair fire.
Is that a red flag though?
No, I don't think it's a red flag.
Okay.
I kind of fall in love with a little red hair there. I'm a big fan. Joe Burrow to Cincinnati. I think that's a lock almost if Bengals do end up with the number 1 overall.
Well, I mean, I think they are out tanking the Dolphins by starting the quarterback who stinks. Like they're starting the rookie. Like they're like, hey, anything you can do, we can one up you here. Like if they started Dalton, they'd win a few games this year.
Ryan Finley didn't get listed on the pre-snap notes here for the Blackouts, but he did not have a good game against that Baltimore Ravens.
We don't want to pile on. It was not going to happen.
Yeah, it was never going to happen. We previewed that on the Thursday podcast. Let's move forward here to a running back we haven't really brought up a ton before this one. Clyde Edwards-Helaire earned one of the highest single-game grades of his season against an Alabama defense. Forced missed tackles really well. I thought he got involved in the passing game nicely. I like this guy. He looked very elusive. I really came away impressed.
Yeah, 8 broken tackles on 20 carries. Also caught all 9 of his targets for 77 yards.
That's what I like.
Yeah, I think he showed a complete skill set. He's a little small on the smaller side for the running back position. But again, if you're breaking 8 tackles and 20 carries against Alabama, that's a tough defense to break tackles against. And that's a good day at the office. He definitely showed me something in this one. It wasn't really on my radar heading into this game, but he had himself a good day.
On the opposite side, Najee Harris had a very nice catch for the touchdown.
That catch is going to raise his draft stock. You show something like that on tape, those sort of receiving ability, because that's one of those things where guys just can't make that catch. If you don't have receiving skills, you don't attack the ball that way that he did in the end zone. So I do think that is a huge now he's obviously lacking the top-end speed that some of the other running backs in this class have. He's not a home run threat by any means, but if you can catch like that, you'll be on the NFL field on third downs.
Looking at Najee Harris right now, he has an 86.9.
Did have a drop though.
He did have a drop. 86.9 overall grade across 349 offensive snaps to start the year. That ranks 10th among all college running backs with at least 200 offensive snaps played. Clyde Edwards-Helaire not really even up in that conversation in the top 10 in terms of grades, but in this one, I think doing it against that defense is what's going to really put you on NFL radars and really put you into that conversation with Najee Harris, Jonathan Taylor, Zach Moss, etc. I think he's the guy that I want to go back to watch more than the Alabama game. Yeah. I want to see more of this kid after seeing him against Alabama really dominate. Let's go to the wide receiver here. Jerry Jeudy did not have a great game in this. A couple drops, and I was really concerned because I thought this was a huge opportunity for him to go against a Christian Fulton and see some Grant Delpit hit over the middle and really dominate. And I think I came away unimpressed. Wasn't super excited with this performance.
Well, it was the two drops. He dropped two touchdowns, one on a deep ball, one kind of on a slant over the middle of the field. That's not great, and he's had more drops this year than any other season of his career, which is always concerning, but he's still not in the range of Tyler Johnson of this class. It's still not bad. It's still not been a consistent problem for him. So it's one of those things where I don't think his drops will be an issue at the next level. 6 on 63 catchable this year. That's still under 10%. So it's still within reason at the NFL level. The missed tackle against Delpit was nasty. Mm-hmm. The blaze out that he had in that game was nasty. He still has that to him. So not going to knock him too hard, but it was not his best performance by any means.
I think this is a good opportunity, too, to kind of look at the draft class and something maybe that an advanced stat that's not everywhere for draft pundits and draft fans is this drops. And I think bringing up some names that have dropped a ton of passes this year. Darrell Stewart of Michigan State, who's popped up on some radars here and there, leads college football with 12 drops on the year. You also see some drops by the KJ Hamler of Penn State, 10 drops, the slot receiver for Penn State. He has had a bit of a drop issue, but Jerry Jeudy's not even in the double-digit conversation. 6 drops on the year. That's about ranks the tied for 20th most in college football. That's where we're at right now. Kobe Smith, number 92 for San Diego State, has the same amount of drops for Jerry Jeudy, just for a little comparison. Let's move forward to Alex Leatherwood, the offensive tackle for Alabama. You've slotted high in the first round in recent mock drafts. What did you think of him?
Yeah, it wasn't his best day at the office, and what was concerning, it wasn't losing necessarily one-on-one. It was him picking up blitzes. He got lost, I think, like 3 times in terms of either a stunt or a blitz where he went to one guy and then tried to recover back to another, missed them. That's just, those are assignment things. I think I brought them up because I think from a scouting perspective, that doesn't really matter. A loss like that, to me, you sort of have faith that those things are going to smooth out as the season goes on. There's no one who's so bad at assignments that you're going to bench them if they can pass protect one-on-one very well the way he can.
Mm-hmm. Let's go to Trevon Diggs, the Alabama. He did not have a great day either. Going so far this year, he ranks tied for 5th in coverage grade among qualifying quarterbacks at 87.5. But this is one of his worst games of the season. He did not have a good day against LSU.
Yeah, so he gave up the one catch, which maybe catch, not catch there on the sideline.
Oh, that's right.
What was the name of the tight ends? Eluding
Moss.
Me? Moss, yes, there we go.
Is it Moss's son?
Yeah.
It's Randy Moss's son. I didn't know Randy Moss's son was a big tight end. I didn't know that.
I did not either. And then he allowed 133 yards on the day. In 9 of 13 targets, had only allowed 11 catches and 166 yards all season going in. So almost matched his entire total for the season. That's LSU, though. I mean, that's what Burrow has been doing all year long. We said Cameron Dance was really the only quarterback who didn't get owned by this LSU juggernaut. So it's not going to be a death knell to his draft stock, but definitely some tape that you're going to go back and watch and be like, damn, he's a little limited. He's not going to be – he might not be your complete corner just yet.
It's official. Grant Delpit has a tackling problem. It was bad before this game. It was bad 3 games before this game, but this game it was even worse. Najee Harris forced a handful of missed tackles against him. You had Jerry Jeudy, which is kind of the highlight reel missed tackle for Grant Delpit. He's got the range, great coverage ability. I still think he sneaks into the first round, but this is a legitimate problem at this point. It's a huge concern because when he's coming up in run support, he's making mistakes on shallow passes. He's making mistakes specifically as a tackler. How much are you knocking this tackling ability down for his grade?
So usually I'm like within reason. It's like drops. Like within reason, it's not going to sway me one way or the other. If you're really on one side, though, if it's really an outlier, which for Delpit, I think it's officially an outlier at this point. He has 17 missed tackles on 16 attempts. He's missing almost a third of his tackles this year. That is an absurdly bad rate. Are you going to trust this guy to play middle of the field, 15-yard run breaks out? You're going to trust him to bring a runner back down the open field regularly? You're going to be turning 15-yard runs to house calls regularly if that's the case at the next level. So I don't think as good as his coverage ability is, and I've said it, before, tackling wasn't at the point where it's going to move the needle too much for me. I think it's starting to move the needle for me. He's going to have to start cleaning this up, or he's going to be dropping down the board precipitously because at some point you have to finish tackles. He just doesn't. He just doesn't at this point.
And with Delpit, too, going into this year, his missed tackles were a problem, right? I mean, 2018 he had a handful of them as well. And to
those 16 missed tackles last year also.
To compound on that, to continue, and even as in 2017, 8 missed tackles on in 2017. I'm sorry, that's kind of incredible. I mean, that's just a ton of missed tackles for a safety, like you said. That when a big play breaks off, or even when he's coming up in support on some of these shallow passes, screens, or whatever, missing a third of your tackles is a lot. Moving forward here, I kind of dove into Diggs a little bit. That 54.2 coverage grade he had against LSU, worst of the season, and I think worst of his career. Not a great performance for him. He needs to bounce back. But like you said, tape to go back to. That's going to do it for what we wanted to talk about for those prospects in the Alabama LSU
full
game.
Breakdown there.
Full breakdown. Let's go to our Raise the Glass segment. That's where we're raising a glass to some of the top prospect performances that weren't in this game. Minnesota quarterback Tanner Morgan had himself a day, made our PFF National College Team of the Week with his overall grade in this one. He had a very good day against a good Penn State team as well.
Yeah, went 18 of 22 in this one. 3 touchdowns, couple big-time throws. And the interesting thing about Tanner Morgan, he doesn't have a cannon for an arm, but has super quick release. Since week 4 on, he is the highest-graded quarterback in college football.
Oh, wow.
This guy. Redshirt sophomore. I'm not sure he's going to come out. Pretty deep quarterback class. But, dude, the highest-graded quarterback in college football from week 4 on. Doesn't have a ton of big-time throws, but he's consistent and accurate with the football. Very interesting prospect to keep an eye on for future years, I'd probably say.
Maybe not a fake ID, but I think he's going to get to that point. Maybe he doesn't declare this year, but like you said, in future years. And he's going to have Rashad Bateman with him as well, who's grading out very well for Minnesota in addition to Tyler Johnson. That is exciting. Row the boat, PJ Fleck. All right, moving forward here, Iowa edge defender had one of the best games of his season against Cole Van Lanen of Wisconsin. Smoked Van Lanen. There was one play I highlighted on Twitter where he beats him on the outside, but there's also one where he jacks him up too. He had a couple very nice reps. The strip sack is kind of what made drew the replays, but there's another one there. That bull rush where he jacks him up is very good.
Yeah, he basically just said, "Hey, I'm still a freak of nature. Like I'm still 6'6", 280, and can bend the edge like I'm 6'2", 240. Like he's dirty. He is just a very good edge defender, very solid. I think he's a complete player, run defense, pass rush. He's going to be good at the next level. I think he's still probably going to be in the top 10 mix come next April.
Definitely reminded us he's an absolute ox, hard to block. And in those bull rush situations, you have him in the top 10 going to the Oakland Raiders in your latest mock draft. I really do like that pickup, especially with them needing pass rush.
Who can actually rush the passer.
They need a guy that can actually rush the passer with significant success. That's Epinesa for you. Washington tackle Trey Adams also makes our Raise the Glass segment after kind of being not having a great start to the year, but he turns in one of the better overall grades among offensive tackles in Week 11. Yeah,
had the highest graded game of his career here against Oregon State this past week. Didn't allow a single pressure, and it's kind of interesting with Trey Adams because he's had so much on tape at this point. 5 years of college, all the injuries and whatnot. I'm not sure he can do much more for his draft stock. Like we've seen him go against Chase Young, and we saw him go against Bradley Anae. The 2 toughest tests he had the past 2 years, and he lost handily in both those. So I don't think unless he goes to the Senior Bowl, he can do anything more for his draft stock except for stay healthy. He just has to not be injured at this point. He could dominate, his next few games. He just has to stay healthy on the football field. Will be his biggest thing going forward. And I just think with his injury history, he's a long shot for the first round. You'd be terrified if you're a GM to pick a guy with a neck injury, ACL injury, two of his last 3 years ended. Injury shortened as much as they were. you would just have to be very confident in your medical staff to give him a first-round grade still.
Another guy, I want to bring up two other Minnesota guys that kind of wowed me a little bit. Tyler Johnson had that one-handed snag that was fantastic. Antoine Winfield Jr., a guy we haven't brought up a ton, but he showed off great range on the interceptions he did have. I did like those ball skills attacking the ball in the air. Antoine Winfield Jr., what's your take on him? We haven't talked about him a lot.
The ball skills you mentioned, he's got very good instincts at the center field position, roaming the middle of the field. A lot of the safety position is not necessarily about speed, it's about reading. You have to be able to process.
Call it that VHS, Vision Head Start.
Reading what's in front of you. Only something like 400 snaps over the last 2 years because of injury there in that Minnesota defense. I think he could be making his way up as a pretty weak safety class at this point. There's only really a couple guys.
We just dragged Grant Delpit.
Yeah,
so safety class is getting weaker by the day.
Exactly. Yeah. So very good game for him against Penn State.
There we go. Let's go to the pour one out segment. I just want to do one more nice thing before we start talking about the guys that did not play well. TCU wide receiver Jalen Renner. He's been a guy that we've been just waiting. I've been pounding the table at home, hoping that he breaks out, hoping he has more explosive plays. Not a great game in this one against Baylor. I was really hoping for more from him. He had a couple drops in this one. Not super impressed with Renner.
Yeah, Jalen Renner is probably playing his way back to TCU. I think
like Cole Van Lanen.
It's about the time of the season where you can start to be like, hey, this isn't his year. He's got another year of eligibility left. Let's try to salvage it. He had 2 drops in this game against Baylor, caught 1 of 7 targets. Now, not all of that's on him. Again, a pretty bad quarterback situation. Probably got missed probably 3 times in that game where he could have caught balls. So, yes, that's bad, but 666 yards he's on pace for this year.
That's not good, dude.
You're not
I saw this guy as a breakout candidate. Damn it.
Drafting a receiver in the first round with 666 yards is just a tough ask.
Honestly, I watched all of his targets too right before we jumped on the podcast. I wasn't super.
And that's if they make a bowl. They're 4-5. They're probably not make a bowl.
I watched all of his targets before jumping on the podcast, and I'm still not super impressed with what they're asking him to do. Like, they didn't ask him to do a very diverse route tree. They're not asking him to do much more than run in a straight line, maybe some skinny posts and stuff. But I wish there was more of a legit game plan to get him involved, design plays to get him involved. And I've been really unimpressed with the TCU quarterback one.
You calling out Gary Patterson?
I'm not calling out Gary Patterson, but I'm a little frustrated. Okay, they get Darius Anderson involved enough, the running back for TCU. Can we get a little bit more?
And also, you're 4-5, so maybe
you do need a little change of pace. The guy that we haven't touched on is a pour one out this year, but Oklahoma quarterback Jalen Hurts, box score looked good, and you mentioned this in your article, but it always looks good in the Big 12. But he missed some throws in this one.
So the big thing with Jalen Hurts that we've kind of said is there's a path to success for him, but he has to follow the Tyrod Taylor recipe for success, which is don't make turnovers. Don't give the ball to the other team. You can go run heavy. You can go over the top of teams. If you just protect the football and don't create turnovers. He threw 2 balls that should have been pick sixes. Both of them were dropped in this one against Iowa State, but both of those should have been pick sixes. One, he just missed a linebacker buzzing out to the flat. One, he was just late on an underneath throw. You can't have those if you're going to be the type of quarterback Jalen Hurts has to be at the next level. So I do think that was, despite the stat line, I think he still had a pass rating of 120-something he ended with. But despite the stat line, 2 balls should have been pick sixes and another pretty ugly pick in that one.
I think it's a good opportunity to talk about Jalen Hurts, his prospect overall. I think we haven't touched on him as a legit NFL prospect a ton on the podcast. This game aside, look at the whole picture here. What are you seeing in Jalen Hurts? Is there a role for him in the NFL? Is he a day 2 pick, day 3 pick? Where are you seeing him?
Yeah, that's kind of like what I said there. If you put him in an offense where you use his rushing ability, you use him as basically another running back in the backfield, and it is run heavy, it is play action heavy, and then he hits you over the top or hits you on the intermediate range off of play action right behind the linebackers. That sort of thing, he can be successful because he's proven over the course of his career, one, he's elusive. One, he can make plays all on his own. And 2, that he has protected the ball very well. It's something like only 4 turnover-worthy plays heading into this game on the season there at Oklahoma. And over the course of his career, even at Alabama, protected the ball really well. But he's not a quick processor. He doesn't throw with timing. If you don't throw with time, if you're not a quick processor, if you're late, that's going to be an issue at the NFL. You're just not going to run a lot of different offenses. But I think there's a path to success for guys like that, for quarterbacks like that. You have to go run heavy because using the quarterback in the run game is the only time we'll say that the run game actually does matter. You can have a good offense when you have that.
I mean, look at the Baltimore Ravens.
Exactly. So you have to do that. But if you're going to get turnovers in an offense like that, if you're going to make the mistakes he makes late with the football, or made this past week late with football, then you're kind of a non-starter. That's not going. That offense is not going to be good at that point.
I don't know if there are a ton of other coaching staffs, a ton of other teams that would be willing to completely change their offense for a quarterback like the Baltimore Ravens did for Lamar Jackson. Hear me out on this. Draft Jalen Hurts to back up Lamar Jackson. Yes, they have RG3, but I kind of like that a lot.
I think that's their plan, though. I mean, they drafted Trace McSorley this past year, and I think that is almost a plan that we'll see adopted elsewhere in the NFL. Is if you have a rushing threat, a dynamic rushing threat like that, quarterback position, you're going to go super run heavy. You can get a guy like that in college football. There's a couple that come out every year that aren't highly coveted because no one else is going to run that offense. No one else is going to change their whole offense around it. But Jalen Hurts could do an imitation of Lamar Jackson in that offense. So I do think that that will be actually, the Ravens' plan going forward is stockpile guys like that.
That would be very interesting. Part of me hopes that another team just completely dials in. It's like, we're going to bring in Jalen Hurts and build around him, make this like a pistol-heavy, run-heavy offense like the Baltimore Ravens did. But there's also part of me like, dude, bring Jalen Hurts with Lamar Jackson and let's see him back him up. And we already saw RG3, the Heisman lineup, where they had Mark Ingram, RG3, and Lamar Jackson on the field at the same time. Give me Jalen Hurts in that too. I kind of like that. And for Jalen Hurts and draft pundits, I feel like I like to call this out. He's earned an 89.7 passing grade so far this year, but his two worst games, if you're going to watch some games, Texas, a 40.5 passing grade, and this past week against Iowa State, 35.8 PFF passing grade. I think those are two games to watch when you're looking for concerns with Jalen Hurts and really how to evaluate him. Now, let's move to NC State edge defender James Smith-Williams. You might have saw him on the commercial that goes from built body all the way up to the end. It's not a commercial, but there's this picture
before
and after, where when he first gets to NC State, kind of looks like a tall, lanky, scrawny guy, and now he's a much bigger dude. They've really added bulk to his frame, but the production has not been there for this kid.
Yeah, he was a guy who I thought could have a breakout year because he went from 195 to 265, still looked like he was adjusting, to that ridiculous weight gain, but was kind of productive last year. Had 40 pressures, 69.6 pass rushing grade on a ton of pass rushing snaps, 340 snaps, so it was a fine grade, and I thought maybe we'd see a leap in play from this year. He only has 10 pressures now through 6 games. Yes, he's been hurt, but he has multiple games without a single pressure. He just has not been that guy. Has reps on tape where you're like, damn, he is super powerful, super long, but the consistency is not even close to this point. He's a guy, like I said, I thought he'd be a breakout candidate. Now he's a late rounder at best.
To be fair, it can't be easy to add that much weight and adjust your body that much and then have any level of consistency. I don't even know if that guy walks with consistency because of how much his body has changed in recent years. Is this a guy that you don't bring in, obviously you don't bring in a day 1 or maybe even a day 2 pick, but you want to build on as a project because he has that, that transformative body and that power you speak to?
No, someone is he's still going to get drafted. When you look like he does, 6'3", 265, and he probably is going to have like something like 35-inch arms. He's super long. He will get drafted. It's just you have to be realistic about your expectations when the guy hasn't shown anything.
And you have to be, and I think this doesn't get brought up enough. I might have a little take here for you, Renner. But when you draft these projects, I think not enough gets said about what you need to do behind the scenes to invest in them from a positional coaching perspective, diet, all that stuff. Like, you legitimately have to invest resources, off-the-field resources, in improving their frame, further improving what they can do on the field, obviously, improving all of that stuff. And, like, you can't just draft a project and think snaps is what's going to get them. The experience will eventually, with experience, will get there. No, you're going to have to invest in this guy off the field to improve his tools and improve his ability to impact on the football field.
Yeah, I mean, every rookie, though, has a long way to go, as we've seen, in our rolling rooks. I mean, like, so few guys come to the NFL ready. They have to, and that also, it's not just what you have to do as a team. It's the mindset of the player. The player has to be willing to improve and put in the work to improve. And so that's why, teams invest so much in what kind of guy is he? Is he a winner? Is he, does he have that intangible? And I think while some of that gets overblown because there's a lot of things that can motivate guys to want to work hard, you don't just have to have the love for the game. There can be other things outside of that. You can just love money and want to work hard. That can be your motivator. But I do think that, like I said, even if you're a super productive college football player, you have a long way to go to be a productive NFL player. So, yes, when a guy has the tools like that, you take a chance late on.
Let's go rolling rooks here where we highlight some of the top rookie performances. I'm really impressed with this one. Tampa Bay third rounder out of Auburn, Jamel Dean, who had that really weird body type where he looked like a linebacker but ran with great speed at the combine. He does not have a good day against DK Metcalf, even though he did have 3 pass breakups where there was some good in that game. He earned a 35.8 coverage grade, playing a majority of his reps against DK Metcalf in Seattle in Week 9. This past week, 95.6 coverage grade. Only allowed 1 reception from 5 targets for -2 yards against Arizona. Some other guys in that Buccaneers defense got toasted. Christian Kirk was giving Ryan Smith the business, but Jamel Dean, very good day for him.
I was going to say he was so good that they cut Vernon Hargreaves. Like, that's how good he was. It really was. He had 5 targets, only allowed 1 catch for -2 yards. So, I mean, the 1 catch was a swing screen that he just blew up immediately. I think it was Larry Fitzgerald. 2 pass breakups on the day and an interception. I mean, he was in guys' hip pockets, on an out route, on a deep ball, and on a crosser, like 3 different sort of routes that he broke up passes on and had a pick on that were just, I mean, he showed a full skill set. It was a pretty damn good day. Like, you didn't expect it after what we saw last week to be like that right out the gate here.
And this is only his second game with, like, legitimate snaps.
Exactly.
Like, he did not play a ton to start the year, actually at all. He didn't take his first defensive snap until Week 6, and still he only played 2 in that game. Week 9, 57 defensive snaps. Week 10 against Arizona, 33. Has himself a day. With the numbers that jump out to me, too, I know he had the 35.8 coverage grade against DK Metcalf and the Seahawks, but he had 3 pass breakups. This past week, 2 pass breakups and an interception. This guy's getting his hands on the ball. And I think when you have a rookie cornerback that's already finding the ball at this rate, there are rookie cornerbacks now that have started since Week 1 that don't have those, like, ball, playmaker index, or what we've called, like, you're getting your hands on the ball, those kind of numbers. Jamel Dean kind of standing out. I'm excited to see him in future matchups. And he's getting more reps. Yeah. Because Vernon Hargreaves is literally looking for a job right now. Going forward here, let's bring up another cornerback that had a good day. Miami Dolphins. You don't bring up a lot of rolling rooks on the Miami Dolphins, but we're going to bring up Nick Needham. Had a very good day in this one.
Yeah, he's been all right, actually, for them. The UDFA out of UTEP graded well for us. I think he actually made our top 250 with something like 196 on the big board. So, hey, we're going to chalk it up as W, that he's actually making plays in the NFL. Had a pick and a pass breakup, 3 of 8 targets for 34 yards. And is actually, over the course of the year, like I said, only allowed 13 of 24 targets for 135 yards. Those are pretty damn good numbers for a rookie UDFA cornerback. I had some question marks about him coming out in the competition level, but
obviously, I mean, he wasn't a top guy.
The dude has really impressed in limited time for the Dolphins. They might have something there.
It's cornerback season here at Rolling Rooks. We're going to also bring up Kendall Sheffield, the Ohio State alum for the Atlanta Falcons, a 4th-round pick, went number 111 overall.
He's been a blackout before for us.
Yes.
So.
I mean, he's earned bad coverage grades in previous weeks, but this one, an 89.9 coverage grade against the New Orleans Saints, let me mind you. Only allowed 5 receptions from 7 targets for 28 yards and recorded a PBU. Easily his best game as a rookie.
Yeah, 2 forced incompletions on the day and added 2 more coverage stops. He has speed, and even in that game against Tyler Lockett that we highlighted as a blackout candidate, like we said, he was with him at times in that game and has that recovery speed to sit in guys' hip pockets. It just, at the catch point, had never been good, was not good at Ohio State. In this one, though, 2 plays at the catch point where he makes, gets in the receivers right there and breaks it up. So I think it's encouraging. Whenever you see, like you said, we've said it before, you just got to see it a few times as a rookie. And we've seen it a few times. One of those incompletions was against Michael Thomas, so there you go.
There you go. Let's go to the Oakland Raiders. They have 2 pass rushers that are playing well for them, or I guess had good games.
I was going to say, come on.
Had good games against the Los Angeles Chargers. But let's start this conversation. The Los Angeles Chargers, when you have to go to Sam Tevi's backup and Russell Okun's backup, things aren't going to go well. That's just kind of how it is. Trey Pipkins and Trent Scott are 2 of the worst offensive tackles in football. They should not be seeing snaps. Max Crosby took advantage. He earned a 79.8 PFF pass rush grade along with 7 total pressures. And Cleveland Farrell added 3 pressures himself, stuff that he hasn't seen a ton this year. He didn't earn a high pass rush grade,
I was going to say, so he gets 3 sacks, and people are like, oh, shit, he's back. Those are his only 3 pressures on the day. Yeah. It was still only a 68.5 pass rushing grade for him. So encouraging. You want a guy, 3 sacks, very good, but it came against the worst offensive tackles in the league, and those were his only pressures of the day.
Yeah.
So I'd pump the
Crosby
brakes.
still had
Pump
the
brakes
better
with
day,
Phil.
and he only had 1 sack. Crosby still had the better day, in my opinion, beating blocks a lot quicker. He had a very nice outside win. Crosby, I would say, and I tweeted this out, and people were just throwing shit at me pretty much. Crosby, I think, is the better pass rusher for the Oakland Raiders than Cleveland Farrell, at least right now. At least right now.
You can't say that because the Raiders fans are going to defend Cleveland Farrell to the death.
I really agree. But what's crazy about Raiders fans, I think, in the first year, they're defending him until the wheels fall off. Second year comes around, and they're still that's like, dude, kill him. Put his head on the block. I can't stand this guy. But we'll see how it goes. I think that's really promising. Another promising thing, too, P.J. Hall, the former second-rounder, had a good day in this one. Not a rookie. I'm sorry for bringing that up on Jesus, 2 for 1. But
I will say the interesting thing about the Crosby-Farrell conversation, the comparison, Crosby 1 has been outgrading him right now as pass rusher. 2, Crosby was a much better athlete.
Yeah,
Crosby came out and tested much better, 3-cone, 40 time, although I don't think Farrell ended up running a 40, but it wasn't going to be good. Farrell's a much better athlete and Crosby was a much better athlete and younger. It's like your 4th-round pick. If you believe in upside, looks like he has more upside than your top 5 pick at this point.
Absolutely. I mean, we saw that too from his tape at Eastern Michigan. He beat down my alum, the San Diego State, a couple times. He looked very good for Eastern Michigan. I think I'm not surprised to see that he does look more athletic and that he is having more success as a pass rusher. Moving forward here, rolling rooks. Darius Slayton, when you put his name on the list, I went ahead and watched all of his targets this year. The dude looks good, very good at the line of scrimmage, very fast, big as well, and I think cornerbacks are struggling to get hands on him. He's also producing well from a box score perspective. I think the Giants might have somebody here. Yeah,
my biggest worry for him was that I didn't love his ball skills, ball tracking ability down the football field. All the speed in the world. I think he ran like a 4.37 coming out, but I just didn't love in a 50-50 ball down the field. I didn't think he's going to come up with it. I didn't think that speed was going to lead to a lot of deep yardage in the NFL. But this one, career day, 10 of 14 targets, caught 121 yards, 2 touchdowns in this one. So if he keeps going, man, I'll be on board. I'll change my mind. But I hadn't seen it. He hadn't done much heading into this week and had struggled with a few drops in his career already. 3 drops on 20 catchable heading into this week. So hat tip to him, although it did come against Jets secondary that leaves a little to be desired.
Oh, yeah. So he toasted Nate Harrison on the outside. I'm going to pull that clip for Twitter later. He absolutely roasted him with a little outside move, came in over the top, then took that one to the house. Darius Slayton looking good against bad competition, but also there's a rep against Xavier Rhodes early in the year when the Giants played Minnesota. Comes in kind of a little bit of a sluggo move and goes double move over the top. He looks good, man. I really do like the speed and stuff. I think it's exciting. Speaking of speed, Andy Isabella is finally getting snaps for the Arizona Cardinals, and guess what? Things are going well when they throw him the football. 3 targets this past week, all 3 receptions for 78 yards. He looks very fast when he catches the ball, fast out of his breaks. He had a nice little catch in the turkey hole that Kyler Murray fit in there. I really do think get him more involved. 4 targets, 4 receptions for over 150 yards over the past 2 weeks. I mean, come on, let's throw him the football.
Yeah, 26 snaps in this one. That was a career high, the most he's seen all year. And like I said, he had a little slant that he then made a safety miss. Took it, for 55 yards in that one. So again, 3 catches, 78 yards. Dude just needs some more reps.
Just give him some targets, please. All right, let's go to our last rolling rook here. Devin Singletary, who I think has been playing really well for the Bills of late, turns in another good game.
Yeah, I mean, he's elusive. That's what he was coming out of FAU. That's what he's been in the NFL. He's just tough to bring down. He's not a fantastic athlete by any means, but at 5'7", 203, dude's built low to the earth. And again, in this one, 8 attempts for 42 yards and broke 3 tackles and averaged 3.9 after contact in this one. So I think he's in line for some more touches. Get Frank Gore out of there.
Oh, come on.
I'm just saying. I know that he wants to break. He's going to play forever until he breaks the rushing record. He's just not going to come off the football field. But come on, let the young guy spin.
Yeah, Devin Singletary over the past 2 weeks has 7 broken tackles on the ground. He also has 5 broken tackles when catching the football out of the backfield. I think Devin Singletary is definitely the better option to be giving him the football over Frank Gore. But Frank Gore is an ageless wonder, Mike. This is a guy that's going to be around when our kids are born. We need to keep this guy around. You are having kids, aren't you? Oh no, that's never mind. No kids coming for Mike Renner. Let's go to the blackout segment here. This is where we talk about some bad rookie performances. Let's start with Stanley Morgan Jr.
Yeah, Stanley Morgan Jr., thrust into a little playing time here for the Bengals, and it's not been great. 1 of 4 targets here this past week, added a drop, and he played like all game for the Bengals in this one, and just, yeah, I mean, he was a UDFA. You can't really rely on a rookie UDFA to come in and just hit the ground running as a receiver.
What's going right for the Bengals? Do you have anything good news for the Bengals?
They're going to get Joe Burrow.
That's good. That is good news. Mr. Ohio's coming to Cincinnati, coming to the Queen City. That's all we got for you, though. Okay, so I love that you put this blackout guy on here. The Wisconsin offensive tackle, or former Wisconsin offensive tackle, got thrown into action for the Los Angeles Rams against the Pittsburgh Steelers. David Edwards played a little bit of right tackle for Rob Havenstein because he went down. Is that correct?
Yes.
So T.J. Watt sauces him a couple times, beat him down, beat him to a pulp. Former teammate T.J. Watt. And then after the game, after beating him down, they took a picture together. I saw it in the USA Today Images bin, and they're just smiling. I was like, dude, David Edwards, you just got embarrassed. How could you be exchanging jerseys with your murderer right now? He did not have a good game. Got thrown into action against a very good edge rusher, but
they've been throwing him all over it. The Rams line, because they've had injuries, played left guard in week 7 and 8, then right guard week 10, and also right tackle, like you mentioned this past week, because of injuries there. And yeah, man, that's a tough ask already, but a 35.8 pass blocking grade in this one, 4 pressures allowed. I
considered getting the image and putting it up on the background here, just to kind of like the smiling faces, like, yeah, that was not a good game for me.
Rookie offensive lineman, just like, don't ask them to play.
They don't play well.
Yeah, don't rely on them. Just sign offensive lineman. You'll be much better off.
So this blackout. This guy has been blacking out every weekend.
We don't have
to bring it up. New York Giants cornerback DeAndre Baker, the rookie out of Georgia, who struggled with speed at Georgia, leaned on the rule of contact, being able to contact wide receivers deep down the field, is continuing to struggle. Robbie Anderson beat him a couple times, called for some penalties. He has been a consistent blacking out every weekend.
Yeah, I mean, he had one nice pass breakup last week that I can give him credit for, but this week, not much you can give him credit for. 51 yards through the air, 2 more penalties. He has not been good. Over for the season now, 30.0 coverage grade.
When he starts getting beat over the top, he grabs onto the receiver and gets called for a penalty. And when he doesn't grab onto the receiver, he's either blowing coverage like he did against Amari Cooper in what should have been 2-man, or he's just getting dusted, like absolutely dusted. I feel bad for the guy at this point. And blacking out that many weekends in a row, correct me if I'm wrong, is not that fun.
No, it gets to be expensive at that point, too. He's probably paying a lot. His bar tabs are probably obscene, and it's just not good.
And then you start buying other people's drinks, and next thing you know, you wake up a $200 tab. You don't even know if you drank any. Man, that's just unfortunate. I've done that to you a couple times. Jermaine Pratt, Cincinnati Bengals off-ball linebacker. We try and get some good things going for the Bengals.
I was going to say, I think the linebacker position for the Bengals is a cursed position at this point. I mean, there's a bunch of cursed positions around the offensive line for the Chargers. What are some other ones? I'm trying to think.
Well, you had cornerback for Tampa Bay.
Cornerback for Tampa Bay, yes. That's definitely a kicker for Tampa Bay as well. There's a handful around the NFL, and I think linebacker for the Bengals is officially one you can toss into the cursed positions because they keep drafting guys and they keep being bad. Jermaine Pratt now has a 32.1 coverage grade for the season. 32.1.
It's incredible. 11 targets, 8 receptions allowed for 147 yards, dude. That's a lot. That's a lot. You're just getting picked on at that point. He was so bad they cut Preston Brown. Oh, wait, that doesn't really work. But Preston Brown did get released today. Maybe they do feel confident Jermaine Pratt can right the ship. That's going to do it for the blackout segment. It was kind of mean. I felt a little dirty for that one, but some good knowledge there. Let's go to the Microbrew segment. We're bringing up a Temple guy.
Yes.
Temple edge defender Quincy Roche. And first thing you got to know about a Temple guy, what's the jersey? Single digits? Yes, sir. That's Temple tough. Quincy Roche, this past week against South Florida. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay, let's just preview
He's
with
had
this.
some of those this year.
South Florida's offensive line legitimately looked terrible. Like he was he beat the left tackle, right tackle, blitz inside, beat the center. I mean, no one had any answers for him in this one.
4 sacks, and he missed 2 tackles.
I know, yes, he missed the 2 sacks, yeah.
He missed 2 more. He's interesting, though, because he's long and lean, like 6'5", probably like 235, maybe 240. So you think maybe like the frame where he could get to like 250 and still play in the NFL. So he's not like one of these capped out, like a Sutton Smith, where he's 240 and like if he put another ounce of like weight on his body, he would his bones would just like shatter because he doesn't have he's capped out. But no, he has the ability to grow. A redshirt junior, so he does have another eligibility left. He probably will come back, but dude already has 50 pressures on the season.
Wow.
So he's been very, very good. as a nice little inside move. He's pretty quick and has some bend around the edge. I like what I've seen from him. Hopefully, I want to see him listed at 250 next year. If you list him at 250 next year, we can start talking about a 92.0 pass rushing grade in the season, third highest in the NCAA.
He looked very good in this one. I like the idea of adding to his frame. I also like the idea of him coming back because then you get him maybe getting invited to the Senior Bowl, see him in some one-on-ones against non-Group of 5 competition, and in that Temple Tough number 9. I'm excited for Quincy Roche. Last segment of the podcast, we're going fake ID, a guy that we have not brought up enough. I mean, people have said tank for Trevor, all of that stuff, but Trevor Lawrence, the Clemson quarterback, turned in an absolute stunning performance this past week. It's time to bring up what will likely be the number 1 overall pick of the 2021.
Yeah, we haven't touched on him at all. We've done a lot of fake IDs, and he hasn't had that game where it was just, lights out, where he just dominates.
I wasn't letting him into the bar in previous weeks. I was like, dude, you're going to have to come back another year.
Come on. If you throw 2 picks against Georgia Tech, you're not getting into this bar.
Exactly.
But NC State, 20 of 27, 3 TDs, a few big-time throws in this one, and quietly, since that sort of that rough start, he has been the second highest graded quarterback. Tanner Morgan since week 4. Trevor Lawrence, the second highest graded quarterback since week 4. 11 turnover plays on the year. That's over double what he had last year. That's been an issue for him. The big-time throws. He's still there. He still makes those special plays down the football field. He still has a cannon for an arm. And I think Clemson's still, everyone's talking LSU, Alabama, Ohio State. Clemson's still that sleeping giant because Trevor Lawrence, against a real defense, I don't think it matters. I think he can put up numbers on anyone. I think he's still the dude that I'd be worried about in the college football
I think
playoff.
you brought it up, what was it, last year when they played Notre Dame. And it was like Notre Dame, it's like Clemson's offense was very good, and then they threw an NFL quarterback under center, and that's what Trevor Lawrence was.
Yeah.
I like the idea of them being a sleeping giant. It's hard to even consider them sleeping when you do have a talent like Trevor Lawrence, because when you have a guy, quarterback position matters most. When you have a guy like Trevor Lawrence who's going to be, hands down, an NFL player, an NFL quarterback, probably the number 1 overall pick, I mean, these guys are always a threat to kind of go deep in the playoffs.
And like what Burrow did to Alabama this past week, Lawrence in the national championship game as a freshman. So
fair.
Yeah.
As a freshman.
Yeah.
I also like the backstory too on Trevor Lawrence that he's never lost. He's barely ever lost in his going back to freshman year as a high school football player. It just doesn't lose football games. And Nick Bosa, I think I saw a tweet or something. He lost his 9th game since his freshman year of high school or something stupid. That's absurd. Just not facing loss at that point. But he doesn't deserve it. I mean, the guy is just an absolute stud. That's going to do it for 2-for-1 Drafts. Remember, this is Austin Gayle and Mike Renner, and you can tune in on Spotify, Stitcher, and Apple Podcasts. We're also live on YouTube every Tuesday and Thursday. Again, this is Austin Gayle and Mike Renner, 2-for-1 Drafts.